My beautiful Alpha Spirit audience, listen to me clearly today and understand that you stand on a battlefield, not just with those around you, but with the world itself. Your journey has been long and painful. The blood that you shed on that metaphorical ground is proof of your survival. Every wound that you carry, every scar that lines your body and soul, tells a story of resilience. But today is not a day for celebration because your battle isn't over. No one can tell you that you've won because the ones you fought still refuse to admit defeat. They will never admit defeat, no matter how hard you crush them, no matter how many times you stand victorious. The truth is, they are not the ones who need to accept that they have lost. You do. And until you understand this, you will never know true victory. You have won. But don't look for applause. Don't wait for the acknowledgement of the world, because the world doesn't know how to recognize greatness unless it falls in their hands. They refuse to admit defeat, because admitting defeat would mean admitting that they were wrong. And we know that no one likes to admit they're wrong, not when their pride is on the line. No one wants to face the fact that they have been bested, that someone with more strength, with more spirit, and with more will has walked across the battlefield and crushed their dreams, their plans, their ambitions. No, they would rather live in denial. They would rather stand there with their heads held high, pretending that the battle is still ongoing, while you know, with every fiber of your being, that the war has already been won. They will refuse to admit defeat because admitting it would force them to confront their inadequacies. It would force them to look into the mirror and face the reality of their own failure. And failure is something that no one ever truly accepts, not in the moment when their ego is bruised, when their identity is shattered, when the weight of the world seems to press down on them and their dignity evaporates like smoke. But that is where you come in, my beautiful Alpha Spirit. You are the one who can see the truth. You are the one who can look beyond the facades and the lies and the illusions. You know what victory tastes like. You have savored its bittersweet satisfaction. You have tasted the tears of those who have tried to stop you and failed. They will refuse to admit defeat because it would mean they have to surrender. Surrender is not something they are willing to do. Surrender is weakness to them. But what they fail to understand is that real strength comes in knowing when to let go, knowing when to accept what is and move forward. It takes far more power to bow your head and admit that you are beaten than it does to stand there in your pride and fight an imaginary enemy that no longer exists. Yet they will continue to pretend that you are not the victor, that the war is still ongoing, that you still need to prove yourself. They don't know the battle is already over. They just don't know it yet. But you know, don't you? You know what it feels like to stand tall in your victory. You know that you have crossed the line. You have overcome the obstacles. You have fought every battle that came your way. The demons that used to haunt you, the enemies who once stood before you, have already been defeated. You know that your soul is a weapon forged in the fires of struggle and tempered by the cold hands of adversity. You have endured what most cannot even fathom, but no one will ever say it to your face. They will pretend they never saw it coming. They will walk away from you as though you were never a threat, as though you were never capable of the power that you possess. You won't hear the applause you thought you would hear when you reach the summit. You won't hear the cheers, the recognition, the validation from the masses. And that's okay, because you never needed it in the first place. You fought for yourself, not for their approval, not for their recognition. You fought because you knew the stakes. You fought because the world would never hand you anything on a silver platter. You fought because you knew that if you did not rise, no one would rise for you. That was the battle that truly mattered. That was the war that you needed to win. So let them refuse to admit defeat. Let them pretend like they still have control over the situation, like they still hold the power. It does not change the fact that you are the one standing tall. It does not change the fact that your name will go down in history as the one who emerged victorious. When they refuse to admit defeat, all they are doing is confirming their weakness. All they are doing is showing the world that they cannot handle the truth that they are no longer a threat to you. They never were. Understand this, my beautiful alpha spirit. The moment you realized that victory doesn't need validation was the moment you became unstoppable. You don't need anyone to tell you that you have won. You don't need anyone to applaud you for your strength. The fact that you are still standing is proof enough. The fact that you are still breathing despite everything that was thrown your way is all the proof you need. And yet they will refuse to admit defeat. They will continue to undermine your strength, continue to pretend that you are nothing but a shadow in their world. But deep down inside, they know the truth. They know that you are the one they will never be able to defeat. They know that you are the one who cannot be broken. No matter how many times they push you down, no matter how many times they try to silence you, you will always rise again. And when they refuse to admit defeat, you will stand there quietly watching as they crumble under the weight of their own pride. Victory is not about the moment the world recognizes you. Victory is about the moment you realize that nothing can touch you. You are untouchable. You are unshakable. Your spirit is made of something far stronger than what they can ever understand. When they refuse to admit defeat, it only strengthens your resolve. It only serves to remind you that the battle you fought was never about them. It was always about you. In the end, they will remember your name. They will remember the one who never gave up, the one who never bowed down to their tricks and lies, the one who stood firm in the face of adversity. They will remember the alpha spirit that refused to be extinguished no matter how much they tried to put out your fire. And when they look back at their own failures, when they try to reconcile with their own pride, they will see you standing there stronger than ever, and they will know that they lost. They will know that they failed. But don't wait for that moment. Don't wait for them to admit defeat. Don't wait for the world to recognize your strength. Know that you are the victor in this battle. You are the one who has won, and that is all that matters. Never forget that your greatest victory lies not in the acknowledgement of others, but in the quiet strength you carry within yourself. An indomitable spirit that cannot be broken by words, actions, or the deceitful masks that people wear. When the world looks at you, they see only what they want to see. They don't understand the darkness that fuels your fire. They don't see the endless nights of struggle, the countless tears you've wiped away in solitude, the moments when you wanted to quit but chose to push forward instead. They don't see that your strength was born out of necessity, not by choice. You weren't given this power. You earned it. And here's the bitter truth. No one will ever recognize what you've done because they can't fathom it. They can't begin to understand the path that you've walked, the battles you've fought and won in the silence of your own mind. They think they understand hardship, but they don't know the depths of it. They don't know what it's like to face adversity and walk through it with your head held high, to stand alone in the face of enemies who are both real and imagined. The world will never know the full extent of your journey because they refuse to see it. They won't admit defeat because it means acknowledging that someone stronger, someone more resilient, has beaten them. And they can't accept that. They cannot accept that there's someone who's crossed the line, someone who was meant to be defeated but isn't. This is why they'll never admit defeat. Not because they don't see the truth, but because they cannot bear to see their own weakness reflected in your strength. There's a certain terror in realizing that you have been conquered, that you have been bested by someone you underestimated someone you thought was beneath you. But you know, don't you? You know exactly what it feels like to rise from the ashes, to climb out of the abyss that everyone else had written you off in. You know that even when they refuse to admit that you won, it doesn't change the fact that you are the victor. You've been to the edge. You've stared into the abyss. You've walked through the fire, and you are still here. So why would they admit defeat? Why would they acknowledge that they lost when their entire identity is wrapped up in the notion of never backing down? They would rather carry the weight of their pride, hold on to their illusion of control, than face the crushing truth that they are powerless against you. And you know what? Let them. Let them cling to their false sense of victory. You have already moved on. You have already surpassed the need for validation, the need for recognition. You know who you are. You know what you have done, and that's enough. In fact, it's more than enough. It's everything. The fact that they will never admit defeat is a testament to the power you hold within yourself. It's proof that they know, deep down, that they've lost. They can hide behind their lies, pretend that the game is still on, but their hearts know the truth. And that truth, my beautiful alpha spirit, is what makes you so powerful. It is not their acceptance or their recognition that defines you. It is your own understanding of your victory. You know what you've done, and that's all that matters. It's hard, isn't it? To stand victorious in silence, to hold the weight of your success and know that the world won't acknowledge it. But that's the price of greatness. That's the price you pay for being the one who stands out from the crowd. The masses will never understand the path you walked. The ones who never took risks, who never fought the battles you fought, will always try to diminish your strength. They'll say you were lucky. They'll say you had help. They'll say anything they can to diminish what you've accomplished. They'll do this because they can't stand the thought of someone doing what they could not do. But this is where the real challenge lies. It lies in accepting that your victory is not about the applause, not about the validation. Your victory is about the relentless will to keep moving forward, even when everyone around you wants to see you fall. Your victory is in the moments no one saw, the moments when you thought about giving up, but you didn't. It's in the quiet strength that fuels your soul, the fire that burns inside you when everything around you is falling apart. They refuse to admit defeat because admitting defeat would force them to face their own limitations. It would mean that they have to reckon with the truth that their power, their influence, their ego is not enough to overcome you, and they can't handle that. They can't handle the fact that you have become the one they can never surpass, the one they can never break. And that, my beautiful alpha spirit, is where your true power lies. You have transcended their games. You've risen above their pettiness. You've left them behind in the dust, and they can't stand it. But you are beyond this now. You no longer need them to admit defeat. You no longer need their approval or their recognition. You are your own validation. You are your own reward. The fact that you are still standing, the fact that you are still breathing, that is your victory. You've already won. The battle is over. They just don't know it yet. And that's okay. You don't need them to know. You don't need them to admit anything. The truth is, you've always known this. Deep down inside, you've always known that true victory was never about what the world thinks. It was never about their acknowledgement. It was always about you, about the strength that resides within you, the ability to rise when the world tries to crush you. And you've proven that. You've proven that nothing can hold you back. Nothing can stop you. They can refuse to admit defeat, but that doesn't change what you've achieved. And here's the final truth. Even though they refuse to admit defeat, you will continue to rise. You will continue to climb higher and higher while they stay stuck in their denial. You will continue to thrive, to grow, to evolve while they cling to the remnants of their pride. They will look at you from the sidelines, watching as you conquer new heights, watching as you become everything they could never be. And in their hearts they will know. They will know that they could never defeat you, they could never break you, and they will be left to live with that truth, a truth they will never have the courage to confront. So keep moving forward, my beautiful Alpha Spirit. Keep walking the path that only you can walk. Keep rising higher, even if the world refuses to acknowledge your victories. Because in the end, the only victory that matters is the one you claim for yourself. The only acknowledgement you need is your own. And when the world finally sees you for who you truly are, when they finally understand the magnitude of your strength, it will be too late for them. They will have lost, not to you, but to their own inability to see the truth. And that, my beautiful Alpha Spirit, is the most beautiful victory of all. The truth, my beautiful Alpha Spirit, is that the world will never understand the true essence of your victory. They may see the surface, the results of your battle, the outward accomplishments, but they will never feel the depths of what it cost you to get here. They will never know the silent cries of despair, the lonely nights where you question whether this path was worth the pain, the sacrifices you made in order to survive. Those who are quick to judge, quick to measure victory by external standards, will always overlook the quiet battles that shaped you, the ones no one saw. But it is in these unseen moments, these silent wars fought within your own mind, that your true power resides. They will refuse to admit defeat because admitting defeat would require them to step out of their own delusions. People live in denial because it shields them from the harsh realities of their own failure. To face the truth would mean confronting their own weaknesses, their own inadequacies. And for some, that is the most terrifying thing of all. It is easier to pretend that the battle is still ongoing, to tell themselves that they have not lost, than to face the fact that they are powerless in the face of someone like you. But here is where the greatest warriors are made, in the absence of recognition, in the quiet moments when you know, deep down, that you have already won. It is in these moments that your true victory lies, not in the applause of the crowd, not in the recognition of those who stood against you, but in the knowing, in the undeniable truth that no matter what they say, no matter how much they try to diminish you, they will never take away what you have earned. This is the power of being an Alpha Spirit, the power of standing in the truth of your own victory without needing anyone else to confirm it. In a world obsessed with validation, it's easy to get caught up in the desire for acknowledgement. We want to hear the cheers, feel the praise, and know that our struggles were worth something. We seek recognition from those who watched us fight and wonder why they don't see us as we see ourselves. But here's the truth that you must come to understand. Their acknowledgement is not your measure of success. Their failure to admit defeat, their inability to recognize your greatness, that does not diminish you. In fact, it strengthens you. It reminds you that the only validation you need is the one you give yourself. You are your own proof of victory, your own champion. No one else's words, no matter how powerful they may seem, can diminish the truth of what you've achieved. Do you realize this? Do you realize how deeply powerful it is to stand in your truth, to know that no matter how the world tries to rewrite your story, you are the one who holds the pen, you are the one who decides the ending. They may refuse to admit defeat, but that doesn't change the fact that you have already won. They may continue to fight their imaginary war with you, but you've already moved beyond it. You've already outgrown their games. You've transcended their limitations. The battle you fought was not just against external forces. It was against your own doubts, your own fears, your own insecurities. Every day, you had to rise above the voices that told you that you weren't enough, that you didn't belong, that you couldn't make it. Every day, you had to fight the enemy within, the one that told you to stop, to settle, to accept defeat. You had to dig deep into your soul and summon a strength that only those who have truly suffered understand. And now, as you stand tall, the world still refuses to see the depths of your struggle, the silent walls that forged you into the person you are today. But you know that those battles, fought in the silence of your mind and heart, are the ones that matter most. These are the ones that shaped you, that turned you into someone no one can ever take down. The world may look at you and see only the surface, the outward triumphs, but you know what it took to get here. You know the sacrifices, you know the pain, and that is where your true strength lies. You have walked through the fire and come out unscathed, unbroken, and unstoppable. You see my beautiful alpha spirit? They will never admit defeat because their pride will not allow them to. Pride is a dangerous thing. It convinces you that you must always stand tall, even when you're crumbling inside. It convinces you that admitting you've been defeated is a sign of weakness. But true strength lies in knowing when to admit defeat, when to acknowledge that you've been outmatched, outclassed, and outwilled by someone greater. But they will never do that. They will never admit that someone like you could have outlasted them, outsmarted them, and ultimately crushed them under the weight of your will. And that's okay, because in the end, it is their inability to admit defeat that shows the true measure of their failure. So let them hide behind their masks. Let them pretend that the battle is still ongoing. Let them continue to fight their losing war. They will never see the truth of your strength. They will never recognize the quiet power that fuels your soul. But you know, don't you? You know that you have already won. You don't need them to admit it. You don't need them to recognize it, because you recognize it, and that's all that matters. It's easy to get frustrated when you know you've won, when you know you've outlasted your enemies, but the world refuses to see it. You want them to acknowledge your strength, your resilience, your triumph. You want them to see what you've sacrificed, what you've endured to get here. But the truth is, they will never see it, and that's okay. Because the most beautiful victory you can ever have is the one that comes from within. The one that comes when you look at yourself in the mirror and know, without a doubt, that you have won. You see, the world can be full of distractions. It can be full of people who will try to tear you down, people who will try to convince you that your victory is meaningless, that your struggle wasn't worth it. But you must remain firm. You must remain unwavering in the truth of your own power. They may refuse to admit defeat, but that does not change the fact that you are the one standing tall, the one who has survived, the one who has conquered. And that, my beautiful alpha spirit, is the most powerful thing of all. When they refuse to admit defeat, they only reveal the depth of their own insecurity, their own fear of being outdone, outlasted, and surpassed. They want to live in a world where they remain at the top, where they are the ones in control. But you have shown them that there is a strength that exists beyond their reach, a power that they can never comprehend. And that is what scares them the most. So let them refuse to admit defeat. Let them continue their charade, pretending that they are still fighting the battle you have already won. You have nothing to prove to them. You have already proven everything you need to prove. You are the victor, and the world can pretend all it wants, but it cannot change the truth. The truth is that you have already won, and this victory that they will never admit, is the most beautiful victory of all. It is the victory of the spirit, the victory of the soul that cannot be broken, no matter how much the world tries to tear it down. You have risen, you have conquered, and no one, no matter how hard they try, can ever take that away from you. In the end, my beautiful Alpha Spirit, it doesn't matter if they refuse to admit defeat. What matters is that you know the truth. You have already won. Your strength, your resilience, and your unwavering spirit have carried you to victory, and that victory cannot be taken from you. The world may not acknowledge it, but you don't need their validation. The battle was never for their approval. It was for you, for your own growth, your own power, and your own journey. Keep walking forward, knowing that you are the victor in this war of wills, and that your power lies not in what they say, but in the undeniable truth of who you are.